Today's lesson is on partial fractions. All we're doing is actually working with fractions in this particular lesson, but it's important for us to recognize that fractions can be confusing. Really try and stay on top of things. Throughout the video today, I'm also referring to 3 superheroes which exist in the Marvel realm of movies. Let's get started. So to begin with, simple fractions. Can you simplify these two fractions? Well, of course. We find a common denominator, the two bottom pieces. The 3 gets multiplied by the x minus 2. The 2 gets multiplied by the x plus 1. In elementary school, a lot of you learn of this as cross-multiplying. This idea is actually going to really help us out take an integral that looks unrecognizable and do this operation backwards so we can break it apart into its original 2 fractions. It'll simplify things for us. Our first example is the integral of 5x minus 4 over top of a trinomial, a factorable trinomial. Please note, this is not the same as the question that we just did, so we have to think about it. So the first thing that we do is we look at that trinomial at the bottom and we ask ourselves, can I factor it? If so, go ahead and do this. All of our homework will be factorable. So the 2x squared plus x minus 1 ultimately factors into an x plus 1 and a 2x minus 1. The second thing we need to recognize is if I was to go back to my original question, that would be almost as if I'm putting together the denominators in my fraction. So something over the 2x minus 1 plus something over the x plus 1 must end up giving us 5x minus 4 over top of the entire trinomial. So in a sense, we could say that, remember, we cross multiply. A times the x plus 1 and b times the 2x minus 1 are going to ultimately give us 5x minus 4. Well, if I put the a and the b into the brackets and then isolate the pieces with an x, I can actually rearrange this a little bit so that I have a plus 2b times x and a minus b on its own. The a plus 2b must be the 5, the a minus b must be the negative 4. So I'm going to go all the way back to grade 10, and I'm going to say, hey, this is just like a systems of equations, which I can either use elimination or substitution for. I'm going to start using elimination. Very quickly, I discover b is equal to 3. I plug it back in, and I get a is equal to negative 1. So my integral then, which was the integral of 5x minus 4 over top of 2x squared plus x minus 1, is the same thing as 2 partial fractions. A negative 1 over 2x minus 1 and a 3 over top of x plus 1. I can very easily integrate each of these using logarithms, ln. Please remember there's a 2 in front of that x, so I have to compensate for that using the chain rule. And I'm done. The task then is going to be able to break up the original integral into these pieces. As another example. This time I've left the bottom already factored just to make things a little bit easier for us. Recognize there's a 1 in front of the x and the number is a minus 9. So when I put things together, cross-multiplying, I get the ax plus bx minus 2a plus 5b. I can just slightly reorganize those and I end up again with the a plus b must be the 1 because they're both attached to the x. And the other 2 pieces must be equal to the negative 9. So this time I'm going to use substitution just to remind you how it works. I'm going to take equation number 1, rearrange it so that a is 1 minus b. I'm going to plug that into equation number 2. I'm going to solve and get b equals negative 1. Therefore, a is equal to 2. I go back to my original integral. and recognize that it must be the same thing as the integral of 2 over top of an x plus 5 minus 1 over top of an x minus 2. Both of these are just logarithms when I do the integral. Don't forget your plus c. One more example for us. Suppose I just have a 1 on the top. The x squared minus 1 on the bottom can be factored. I know it's going to break down to 2 separate pieces. But my question is, what about the x? There's got to be a 0x there. So when I go ahead and rearrange these, cross multiply, put my things together, I get a plus b must be 0. And I could write a negative a plus b for the other one, but I chose to write it initially as a b minus a. Now I'm just switching it around again. I'm using elimination again. I get that both of my answers are 1's a half, 1's a negative a half. Those just become constants in front of the logarithms, and I differentiate. I integrate. That leaves us with a little bit of homework. I totally forgot to talk about my superheroes, so just really quickly. My question to you is, which of these 3 superheroes would be your favorite? Captain Marvel, the Wasp, or Scarlet Witch? Mine would have to be Scarlet Witch, because in the comic books, she was actually married to Vision for a long time. Enjoy your day.